we wanted to have an open dialogue about our budget so that the community can ask any questions they want, raise any concerns that you might have, any more information that you would like. We're asking for a good dialogue, questions. We have mics set up. I want to welcome Board Chairperson Erin Daniels here, Board Member Joyce Worden here, City Council Person Joanne Philbrook here.
I'm here as a citizen, not as a council member.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Either way, we're glad to have you all here. We know that when boards present budgets or councils present budgets and people get to speak, there's no chance to speak back if there's a public hearing or a presentation. So this we thought to do so that we can have a conversation in a respectful way, so that we can answer questions that people might have, and maybe we can make more sense out of some of the numbers that we deal with on a daily basis. So I will ask first, everyone should have handouts that we have in the back, and Athena is going to go through and kind of tell you what each document is, and then we're going to start a conversation. So this is really that, a community conversation.
Okay, so in your packet, the first page is the mission statement of the Board of Ed, as well as the goals and priorities in general for the education department, not necessarily for this year. These are the things that we strive for. Some of them are partially grant funded, some are partially general funds. Some down the bottom are specifically grant funded, so those are identified. You can read through those. The next few pages are, I put together based on questions that people had asked prior to these forums. So some of the questions that you may have might be answered in there. It identifies the increase in the health insurance. It discusses the increase in the tuition. Talks about the decreases in salaries. Just discusses city retirement plan. That's an actuarial requirement that we need to do. Talks about transportation, public utilities, and a little bit about our district with 85% of our students currently receiving free breakfast. Our district free and reduced percentage is 76% this year, which is a lot higher than 10 years ago or 8 years ago. Food services, they're fully self-supporting. They also, all reduced students are also given free meals, and those that are in the district after school get a free supper. The Family Resource Program, there's some information there, some information about adult ed, about the schools we transport to and that our students go to, some information about the number of languages spoken in our district, the before and after school programs, and a little bit about how our district is funded with grants and general fund. Page 5 is a breakdown of the general fund and the budget requests that we currently have. You'll see that the majority of the increase is health insurance and tuitions. And
Which numbers are those? Excuse me.
201 is health insurance,
Okay.
and tuitions are 560.
Thank you.
And you can see on the graphic behind me, it's a little more detailed than the one in your packet. Anything in the yellow boxes are the increases.
We'll go through that a little bit in a second. Page 6 is similar to what you see up in front of you, just portrayed a little differently. Page 7 is a history back to 2004 of the percentage that is funded by the city. And in the right-hand side is the percentage, it's the dollar amount we requested versus what was funded by the city. Pages 8, 9, and 10 are the history back to 1998, which discusses how cuts were dealt with, how adjustments were dealt with, such as loss of personnel and things like that. Page 11, we have been hearing a lot that we need to collaborate more with other agencies in the city. And some of the way that information has been presented to us, it's clear that we aren't doing as good a job as we can explaining what we do collaborate on, because we collaborate a lot with not just the other city agencies, but with other programs within the city that are not necessarily city programs. So some of that information is here, and this was really put together by me, so I'm sure there are other things that we collaborate on that I may have missed. Page 12 is the district profile, so you'll see a list of Board of Ed members, the central office administrators, the four of us, and the building principals and directors within the district.
Okay. We'll start now with any specific questions or comments that anyone might have before we go into more detail. Yeah, and if you come up to the mic and stand up, it'd be helpful. Then everybody can hear. Thank you.
Chairs are dangerous because they have wheels.
You got it.
In your utilities, I noticed that you have heat and electric, but I don't see anything for water and sewer.
Water and sewer is under electric.
It's one bill for.
It's all, we can receive it all as one bill, so we charge it all to electric.
Well, then how do you manage your costs? When I get my bill from NPU, it's delineated
Because it's all
by,
budgeted in that one line item. We break it out by the building, we don't break it out by.
so
the
you don't get a
type of
bill
utility.
from NPU like I get a bill from NPU?
No, it doesn't look like you're a bill from MPU, no, but we do get it broken out by those particular utilities, and we build the budget based on that. They also give us a forecast model for what it should look like for each of those utilities.
Okay, so I notice in here you make reference to the fact that you didn't have your figures prior to this presentation. Based upon the information that was brought forward at NPU, we're looking at considerable increases in water and sewer rates. So how are you going to build that into your budget?
I just spoke with MPU tonight. We are going to be getting an estimate from them next week. They're expecting that the savings we will incur in electric are going to offset our water and sewer, because we don't have a ton that we pay for water and sewer. So they're expecting that those are going to offset. However, the increase that is there is not attributable to what they're forecasting for 16-17. That's attributable to, they develop their budget after the Board of Ed adopts their budget. So that's actually money that I should have had in 15-16 and didn't.
Okay, that's it for now. Thank you.
We're waiting for an updated number from them. Other questions? Can you come up to the, thank you.
That's the mic.
Speaking of the utility budget,
Talking,
maybe in your chart of accounts,
can you talk into the mic?
since we're talking about utilities, maybe in your chart of accounts, you should describe it as including electricity and water.
We can do that.
If the cost
Can you-
associated with utilities includes,
That's the radio,
if it
that's us.
includes utility, if it includes water and sewer, then instead of just describing it as being heat, you may want to add the additional words to it.
Yeah, it's not in the heat line item, it's in the electric
Well,
line item,
whatever
but I
it is.
totally get what you're saying, and we can do that.
Okay. Thank you.
So mine aren't nearly that technical, my questions aren't nearly that technical. On page 2, it says there are currently 140 out of, am I talking to this one or that one? Okay, sorry. Leave it to me to be a troublemaker, Abby.
Yep.
There are currently 140, and it says something about 22 special education students at magnet schools. Is that in and out of district, or is that just in district? Is it right? Does that make sense?
Yes, I believe that the 22 you're asking about are out of district, so there's students that attend many of the
Yep.
magnet schools
Yep.
outside
Okay.
of Norwich.
Yep.
I don't know why that mattered to me, but it did.
The in-house ones would be counted in our in-district numbers.
And your in-district numbers,
Right.
okay, cool. And then I have one question just for clarification on page 3. You said 85% of our students receive free breakfast.
Yes. Actually, it's
Isn't everybody
100%.
receives free
It's
breakfast? Is that
100% are able to have free
But
breakfast.
85%
But
would be
85%
eligible.
take it,
Okay,
okay? So anybody that walks in the door for students can have free breakfast.
yeah, because
But
one of my kids takes it
85% is the
every day.
utilization rate.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
And it's actually the highest in Connecticut.
Utilization rate?
Yes, second year in a row.
Breakfast is important.
Other questions? Comments? Yes.
Again, I want to make it abundantly clear that I'm speaking as a citizen, because I was told that as a council member, I was not allowed to speak, and I have a real problem with that.
Can I interrupt for 1 second? It was, if there were quorums of either the board or the council, it wasn't going to be a meeting like that, but anybody can speak, okay?
You just made reference to the fact that we are one of 2 districts in the state that has the high rate for free lunch or subsidized lunch. If you would rephrase that for me.
No, what we said was that 100% of our entire school population is eligible for free breakfast, okay?
Correct.
So, but 85% of our students actually take free breakfast. So for
Or
2
anything.
2 years in a row, we have the highest percent of utilization for the breakfast program.
Okay. And is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, it depends on how you look at it. Since I'm the finance person, I'd say it's a good thing because then it allows us to get greater grants.
As an educator, I think it's a good thing for those who don't get breakfast at home, for all kids to have the opportunity to eat breakfast.
And all that comes from grant money.
Yes, we don't fund anything for food service. It comes from USDA government commodities. It comes from federal subsidies, state subsidies, and a lot of like farm-to-school programs, a lot of different grants, but we don't pay anything.
I have to say that looking at this, your total budget with your grants totals $94 million. If you were to receive your full allocation under the budget proposal, one could venture that next year with your funding and your grants, we could be looking at $100 million.
That's not necessarily true. Because using that logic, you can only tie it to the general fund money. A lot of those grant dollars are specifically tied to certain programs, certain building improvements. We get a lot of grants that are specifically for technology. So for example, we just received like $1.2 million. That was for, and that's in that 94 million. That's a one-time thing. That's for security upgrades. That's for technology. We received another one for 80-something thousand for technology. So those are one-time things. Then there are also grants that we do that we are paying for staff for. But if the grant goes away, we don't have that staff. Okay, so those grants pay for specific program improvements. It'd be great if we could still do some of those program improvements if the grants go away, but that's not necessarily the case. It depends on what the grant is and what the positions are that are being paid for. But a lot of that 94 million is tied to equipment, facilities, and technology that we have been unable to pay ever out of the operating budget.
Okay. If I may, I applaud your efforts. I have a daughter who's an educator. I have a grandson who's in the school system. But as a senior citizen and a taxpayer, this is unattainable and unsustainable. It just cannot continue. People, the million-dollar question is, no pun intended, every year the school budget goes up, but the quality of education, according to articles that you read, does not increase appreciably. And I don't expect you to answer that for me now, but that is the million-dollar question. We keep paying more and more. And I remember one night at a council meeting, the budget was, and I said, well, how much do you need? You know, $100 million? And a lady behind me patted me on the shoulder and said, thank you, thank you. And I had to bite my tongue because I was sort of being sarcastic. You know, I live on Social Security. I would love to go to the U.S. government and say, well, my taxes went up, my utilities went up, this and this and this, but this is what I have to live with. So, as I said, I applaud your efforts, but at some point in time, we reach a saturation point.
But you also have to understand, and I'm going to be very honest when I say this, I have been in this district for 39 years, And all I ever hear, all I've ever heard from the city council.
I'm
and
not at
other-
city
Oh,
council.
I know that.
Yeah,
I'm not, at this point, I'm saying the city council in general, is that our school system is failing. Because based upon, and I know the media has to do their job, one test. I have never seen anybody come in and ask, well, can you break this test apart? We did something last year in February for the school board. We worked with UConn, we had a professor come in who we've been working with, who showed one student in kindergarten the growth they made in writing from August until February. The state test that the students are taking now, the SBAC test, is a test that they have to do online. We have upgraded equipment over the years, all through grants. We don't have the capacity to be teaching our kids every minute of the day how to do certain things on a computer that they've never done before. Most of the kids know how to text or go onto a computer and do something else. And so, this community for 39 years has said we are failing. And for those of us who have worked here that long, that's a shame. Absolutely a shame. Because they've never come in and they've never asked how to do it.
But with all due respect-
We're making growth. We talked to the board about that at the last meeting. We are making growth with all the other assessments. And when I hear that we're not, I was at a city council meeting last year or the year before, when we were doing budgets. And somebody, and I'm not gonna say who, said, teachers make all this money, administrators make all this money, and our kids are still dumb. That is a shame.
And I would say, just as an idea, and I think this may be something, you say that people don't come to you. You, us, you can also come to us and say,
I've given the opportunity over the years to meet with city
please
council.
don't point your finger at me, because it
no,
makes me...
that's how he walks.
Okay, thank you.
He does it at me, he talks that.
Yes, well,
I want to just clarify a couple things, and that's Joe's emotion of 39 years being here. And I get it, because it is hard for us when everybody and their staff here work really hard to improve. So let's take, for an example, the SBAC test. The state put out an accountability index this year, which our, each individual school say is here. We're not, Simsbury or somewhere, but we're equal or better than other school districts like us. We compared ourselves at the last board meeting to other priority school districts and alliance districts, which are urban districts like us. So our schools were equal or above. In the formula, they added in high school, which we don't have our own high school. So all of our high school kids, except for 60, say 60, who are in special education programs, very disabled kids that are out of district, were factored into ours, so that even with their formula, the addition of, if you just want to look at it in a plain way, all of the total of all of our schools and the total at the bottom was less than what the total of all the elementary schools were. It doesn't make sense that 60 kids brought I'm not blaming the kids. I don't want
actually,
that to be
Dennis
the...
Slopak explained that to us.
So,
yeah.
we called the state and we said, this isn't really right, because we have students, a lot of students at NFA, a lot of students at magnet schools, all their schools of choice. Why would 60 students, just those 60 students, be in our count, or else have all the high school students in our count? And you're right, there's a flaw in the formula. So I said, well, then what are you going to do about it? Well, nothing this year. So out in the paper comes us, way at the bottom when it is inaccurate. I said, what do you mean nothing? Well, I won't tell you what I said, but...
I will laugh.
Don't tell my secrets. And it's true. So they're looking at it for next year. And I'm like, the damage is done, because just like you say, you'll read that, or you'll look at it, or the paper will, I mean, I'm not blaming the reporters, you only know what you know, because they really try to look deeper and talk with us about the truth. It's not made up, this is the fact. Just a couple of other facts about our district, about testing, you know, it impacts this and it doesn't. 30% of our students move in and out in any given month, in any given year. So we kind of monitor that every month. I present to the board our enrollment as it is, and it's stable. We may not be, but the enrollment is. And CABE did a study, the Connecticut Association of Boards of Education, in Norwich is one of the 16 districts in the state projected to have their enrollment stable or up. Because you read in the paper articles about all of our surrounding towns, and they're like, oh no, our enrollments are going down. How are we going to cover the cost of education? How do we cut back? We're the only one in eastern Connecticut that's projected to go up or stay stable. That's us, that's Norwich. So we have to plan for that. In terms of the grants, we look for any grant possible, which is, I know, good. We would never have the technology, we would never have all the curriculum, the great things that we purchase through our grants network. We have two network schools, 2 magnet schools, a school improvement grant. Those are the big ones. We are an alliance district, so we get about $4 million or so from that, but it's not where we can say we can't fund these classroom teachers this year, we can move them to Alliance next year. You can't supplant. So Alliance is built based on goals for turning the district around, school improvement goals. It's written as our district improvement plan is written. That's our kind of our guide to our work. So what's in there is what we can use that money for. It's very specific. The state's visiting us every other week. We visit schools. We look at our progress. They use some of our schools as models for other districts because of how we've taken these grants and turned schools around or have begun to turn schools around. The scary part, that's great, right? The other part that makes me quite nervous is that 40% of our staff are grant funded. So we know the general fund is, I know, I pay taxes, I get it. I hate the idea of saying we need more. What we need more in are fixed costs. We're not adding people in essence at all. If anything, we have to look at, we're redesigning our Alliance grant for this coming year. We're told from the state, now you know what that means based on the deficit, it changes by the day, that the Alliance grant will stay stable and stay the same as this year for next year, so we're planning that way. So we'll look at how do we rebuild the grant so that we meet our needs the best that we can. We can't just fill classroom teachers with that grant. It's illegal, it's supplanting what the city's responsibility is. That's how they say it. Our 2 network schools, Stanton's going in their 4th year this year. That was really a 3-year grant, but because they've done so well, the state said, boy, we gave you a little more this year, and they're talking about 25% less for next year, but a 5th year of a network school is really unheard of, although we were in the first cohort. So, but they're saying, Norwich, you're doing some great things, we're going to keep funding that so things continue. So we fight for that. We work with the state on a regular basis on that. The 2 magnet schools, Moriarty and Aquanic, have done really, some of you have been to events there, really great things. That's federally funded. Those grants end. What does that mean? That doesn't mean we stop being a magnet school. It means we maybe can't have some of the programs that we offered before. That means that we sustain what we've learned from these 3 years of the money, all the things that we've been able to purchase and what our staff has learned, and continue to grow in that theme base. The scary part for me is I'm signing all these non-renew letters, right? So anybody non-tenured, because we don't know what and it's not smoke and mirrors. For 2 years, we didn't send out non-renew letters, but this year there's a lot of uncertainty. So we've invested a lot of money in people. People are what you need in districts like ours, an urban center, any research you do, anything you read about urban education, and believe it or not, folks, Norwich is urban. We're a city now. It's not like when I was at fall school 100 years ago in Norwich when I went home for lunch. It's not like that anymore. We're a city. We have a lot of needs that other surrounding towns don't have. But we have to plan for that, and the education, it takes more people, I guess. It sounds trite. People say put more kids in a class. Some of our classes have 25, 26, 27 in them. Some of our rooms are a little piece of the size of this room, so it's a health and safety issue. We are going to have to increase class size. We did this year, but those are our fixed costs. We didn't increase our salary line because we didn't put in for additional people for next year. The costs are tuition and insurance, tax, and utilities, which we don't have a lot of control over. Mary can talk a little bit about special education. And the unfunded mandates. Everybody hears about that. If anybody's interested, we have lists of those that we can share. We put them in the packet because the packet then gets too big. The unfunded mandates, it sounds trite or like an excuse, but it's true. And we should educate our students with special needs. That's not my point, but it's very costly. Anything in any district, it's all that. We had 11 students, or 17 students that we didn't count on. I mean, we had a lot more move in, but 17 this year alone who moved in with an education plan, which is called an IEP, for out of Norwich placements, very disabled kids that we can't provide for here. The average cost for that is $100,000 a student. And I'm not making between transportation and programming. Times 17, we didn't count on that in our budget for this current year, so we're in deficit because it's a mandate that we provide education for any student, and I agree to that. I don't blame any student with a disability. That's our obligation, our ethical obligation, but it's expensive. It starts bigger than us, the costs of some of these programs. And we didn't talk a lot about it's in your packet, about our homeless numbers. That's another mandate. If a student's homeless, we have an obligation to transport back and forth to where
It's
they...
not in there.
It's not the number, we're
Not
at like
homeless. 70-something, I think.
70.
No, 70 kid?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
70 at this moment in
Yes.
time. So that means if a student was in school here and they're in the shelter in New London, they have the right to continue in school in Norwich, but they also have the right to have us transport them. New London and Norwich, which share that transportation cost, but then you have to find it, who can do it, and how much is it. We get a very small grant called McKinney-Vento, so that's legislated, that covers the transportation. We went through that. When you figure 70 families are already, at this point in time, homeless,
And that grant has gone down over the years. When
Yeah.
I first started in this job 11 years ago, we were getting about $70,000, just $70,000 just for Norwich Public Schools. We are now down to $50,000, but we have to share some of that with Learn, which is an area educational agency, because they provide some after-school services at the homeless shelter, which is at Uncas on Thames. So the amount of money has gone down, and I said at the public forum the other day that we are lucky that our bus company, because they transport students for special education out of the district, if they are going to an area, like there's a homeless shelter in Danielson, so if somebody from Norwich, they move to Danielson's shelter, we share the cost with Danielson. We provide one way, they provide the other way. If there is no transportation with our bus company, and we're very thankful that they do it for us, we have to provide transportation. There's really only one livery group in this area that we've been able to find. We've been looking for more. Curtin, and depending on how far they go, we've had to pay up to $300 or more for a one-way trip for a student. And the money goes down every year. When you get to a zero balance in that grant, then you have to start taking money out of your Title I funds, which are federal funds. And the problem with the Title I grant is we've already had our budget put together. School starts in August, and 9 times out of 10, I don't even know what we're going to get from the state gets the money, then they divvy it up somehow or other. We don't know what we're going to get sometimes till the end of September, early October. One year it was the end of October. So we have people put in our budget under grants for Title I. And, you know, if we got cut over the years, we've had to make some adjustments. Luckily, the last few years, I think we've been pretty much flat funded, which is good. It's not going down, but it's not going up either.
The other thing, just for a point of more information about where the money goes. Now with school choice, and we all know about school choice, we have not our own high school, so students have a lot of choice and they choose where they're going to go to high school. So that's one expense, but if we had our own high school, we would also have an expense. But now for elementary schools, students have the opportunity to go to magnet schools, not all in Norwich. We don't transport there, but they have the right to go, which is a tuition. So we pay tuitions for some elementary students or middle school students to go out of Norwich, which if they were in district, we wouldn't have that. High school we pay anyway because we don't have our own. So that's another kind of mandate, I'd call it, or federal law or state, whatever. It's coming down from on high that students have school choice. And that's what school choice is. So some programs we pay for and have to, and others we don't. We also transport, we talked about this last time, that we are obligated to transport our kids to our schools. We have, different than most communities, we have 2 parochial schools. We have the integrated day charter school, and we have NFA, we have Norwich Tech, and then the other choice high schools. We transport students to all of those places because we are obligated to do so.
So some of those places, we even have to pay for quite a bit of services.
Right.
Services such as nurses or OT, PT.
Speech-related services, other additional costs that we have to provide in those programs. We may get a little piece of a grant to cover it, but that's our obligation because they're Norwich students who go to other choices.
And do they go to those schools with an IEP or a 504
Yes,
that
yes.
requires, okay.
Right, they can, and then in some cases, we supply the support people. Like at NFA, we have 11 para-educators that we pay for at NFA to support our special ed kids. At the charter school, we pay for some of the services there. So that's all out of the general fund.
I just want to add too, with regard to Title II money, we get Title I, Title II, and Title III. With our Title II money, we don't get to keep all of that. We have to share it with the parochial schools, with NFA, with like Wildwood Christian School. They all get the no, not the charter school. The parochials, no, and the Montessori schools. So they all get a piece of that. So if, you know, if it looks good that we're getting $100,000, it's not all ours.
Right. I think the other point, and then I'm going to take some more questions. Hopefully I can
Mary
talk.
wants to answer something.
Mary, go ahead. No, all right, just I want to, because I see Sheila back there, our Director of Language and Translation Services. We have students, here we are an urban center, it's not a blame thing, over 30 languages spoken in Norwich. We're over 500 bilingual students in our schools, and if there are 20 or more students who speak one language in a school, we're mandated to have a center there, which means you have to have a particular certification for a teacher in that school. So we have 5, we probably could use more space and money to find those teachers is another issue. So it's just one other, I'm going to call them all contributing factors, not excuses, contributing factors. But Mary wanted to add something about special education.
I just thought I would share some of the numbers, because when you think about special education, you have to think about students from ages 3 till 21. So the day a student turns 3, if they have birth to 3 ISFP, and they're eligible for services, we become responsible on their third birthday, and they could continue to receive services up until the year in which they turn 21. So 3 is 3, but 21 is any time in that year that you turn 21. So last year, I'm going to use our October 1st count numbers because special ed numbers are a moving target all the time. We had, between the ages of 3 and 21, we had 952 students on our October 1 count. So again, it's a wide population of students. We have over 1,000 IEPs now. I think the last time I checked on IEP Direct, I had 1,028. So within that population, we provide resource room services, we provide OT, PT, speech, we buy equipment for students when they need it, if they're physically challenged, we provide nursing services for students that need them. We have students that have high medical needs, students on the autism spectrum that we provide. Fortunately, in Norwich, we've been able to put together our own ABA program, so we have students that get discrete training trials. We're able to keep a large number of our students in district. Well, I say a large number, we have 20 of our students in district that are in that program. For
But we have
example, students-
140 placed
we
out.
have, right, we have 116 students who are on the autism spectrum, and we're able to keep 20 of them in-house. We have about 60 of them that are out in the regular ed population that we're supporting as well. And so our goal is always to provide students with a free and appropriate education. We're required under IDEA to do that in the least restrictive environment. So we provide the services in the homeschool first before we would look for out-of-district placement. And we do have 140 students that needs are so severe that we're not able to accommodate their needs in-house. But when you think about having over 1,000 students, it's really a small portion of the students that we're not able to support in-house and keeps them here.
Tell them around how much they cost each one.
So an out-of-district student on an average is most of our students are about $100,000 for an out-of-district placement. Some of the programs are a little bit less. Some of them are more. If they're one of the higher needs students and they have to have a full-time paraprofessional with them, we have students that, because of medical needs, may need to have medical staff riding on a bus with them. So again, it depends on the individual student, but an average cost for an out-of-district student is $100,000.
Does that $100,000 include their transportation cost too, or is
No,
that?
that's on top.
I just think that's important for people to know.
It is, thank you.
That's the tuition and the cost for the services.
For the services they provide,
Right.
and then there's the other.
Right, getting them there.
We also provide services in students who are in the private or parochial schools in Norwich, and there's actually 5 of them that qualify because they have at least a kindergarten. We have approximately 20 students that have what are called service plans, so they're entitled to a portion of the IDEA funds in order to get special education services in a different format than in their school.
So that's just more contributing factors. Yes, can you come up to the mic, please? Really talk in it. I know him, I can.
The more I listen to the dialogue going on, the more I feel that this city of Norwich needs to go through a reality check. Back at the elections, our people got elected based on trying to reduce the budget. And yet I'm noticing tonight that there's not many more people here tonight that was here the other day. So it doesn't seem to me that either they're not concerned or they're not willing to make adjustments. But in reality, we are asking the Board of Education, or we are asking the school to do an insurmountable task. They're strapped. And it's not the school system that created this environment. It's the people in Norwich over the years that's created this environment. We're socially minded. We provide people with a lot of benefits that other towns are not willing to provide. And in speaking of the task of having to educate kids, a few years ago, I was talking to a principal of a school in Norwich that had a population of 350, and every year it changed. How many other districts or how many other areas of this state or even this country that have this kind of a situation? So I'm a taxpayer. I'm here because I'm getting sick and tired of having to pay more taxes, and and the value of my property going down. It's not a very pleasant situation. I don't know if I want to mitigate my problem or not, but, so what I'm attempting to do is that I want to make sure that the school board is doing everything they can to minimize the cost, because we need to reduce the cost. But I also want to know that other departments are in the same family as we are, and are they willing to attack the cost? And so some of the questions I'm going to be asking from all of the, is that what are we doing collectively to reduce our budget? And if we think that the Board of Education or the public school system is spending too much money, maybe we should stop when we run out of money and turn them over to East Line. Maybe they'll take it over. It's a no-win, and it's a situation that people I don't think really understand. And so some of the things I'm going to be asking not only the board, but other departments, all of the other departments that make up our budget, our total budget for the city, is that what are we collectively doing to mitigate and to reduce the cost? Are we doing outsourcing maybe more than we are? Do we combine efforts? Do we all have the same insurance company? Do we go out competitively and get the best price? Do we do all these things? Because if we're not doing our job. And I'm surprised that, like I said, when we had our elections, I thought there'd be more people here from the city council and also the Board of Education. So for them to get and understand what's going on, and it almost looks like they don't care. So anyhow, I'm gonna scrutinize. I'm going to attempt to scrutinize all the budgets that are being presented, but I'm also going to be asking some hard questions.
Thank you.
I can answer your insurance question. We are part of the same collaborative plan for all of our insurances. So we have property liability together with the city and MPU. There are certain components that, of course, only apply to the Board of Ed or only apply to the police officers, but we're all collectively in the same.
What about the other cost centers?
What other cost centers?
Well, you have public utilities,
Yeah,
We're all together.
you have a fire department.
Yep, we're all together.
Okay, so all of the different cost centers are all pooled together.
Yes, and then health insurance, we are also all pooled together. We all have different plan designs, but
But all under one company.
all under Blue Cross and all under one company.
Okay,
And
now-
yes, we do look for proposals all the time. At this point, the only one that's really competitive is Cigna, and they aren't able to match what we get. Because we're self-insured, our admin costs are very inexpensive compared to anything anybody else can give us. And because we are collaborative together, we have over 1,000 lives in the plan. So we achieve a lot of the economies that collaboratives that exist elsewhere in this city, in the state, such as like an EastCon collaborative or a Learn collaborative, they actually have fewer lives than we even have. So we achieve many more savings based on our size with all three of our parties together than we could get by going anyplace else. We do look at it, but our savings is actually better working with ourselves. We have 6 bargaining units on our side. Like I said, we have different plan designs than the entire group. We have 6 bargaining units on our side. We have 3 groups negotiating, or they should be negotiating soon. That would be me. So that expired as of June 30th, 2016. The others have all been negotiated already. As we negotiate the contracts, of course, there's a Board of Ed negotiating committee, subcommittee, and as we negotiate them, we constantly adjust the health insurance plans based on economies and what we can do and what we can do to save the taxpayers money. So one of the questions that has come up are, do the Board of Ed employees contribute to their health insurance plan? Citywide, everybody contributes to their health insurance plans. But the Board of Ed side, some of our bargaining units actually contribute more than anybody in the state. Some of them are up to a 23% contribution. That's unheard of anywhere else in the state. They're not all up to that, but some of them are up to that. Our health insurance plan designs are also the most expensive for the employee because we provide the least coverage. Our plans are much less rich plans than the city or NPU. So when our employees,
What do you mean rich plans?
so we don't have, our prescriptions cost 20, 30, or 40, or 10, 20, and 40, something like that. But some of the plans in the city, it's 2, 5, and 7. So you pay $2 for generic, $5 for something else, and $7 for a brand name. If we want a brand name, we have to pay $40. So we pay a lot more out of pocket for our coverage than, there's the 23%, but then when we go to the doctors, we pay a lot more.
So their premiums are higher than yours then?
Yes.
Well,
Yes, for example, let me explain it to you this way.
why is it fair for you folks to pay 23% and they get away with $2 copays?
We've been asking that question
It's
ourselves.
negotiated, yeah.
It's negotiated, yeah.
However,
Well, I think we need to renegotiate. I mean,
you've probably all heard about the Affordable Care Act and whatever year it is now because they keep changing it. I think it's 2017 or 18 now, when we, is it 20 now?
I think it's 20 now.
Okay, yeah, they keep changing it. Anyway, when we get to that point where there's a certain threshold that if your health insurance plan costs more than that, then it's subject to an applicable tax. Our insurance consultant actually forecasted what that would look like for the Board of Ed, for the city, and for NPU. For the Board of Ed, it would cost nothing because our plans are cheaper than everybody else's plans. So it wouldn't cost us anything when we get to that particular date. It would cost a lot of money for the city and MPU, so they will have to negotiate some changes before then.
So basically, they have a Cadillac plan,
Right.
and you guys have the Chevy plan.
And you're paying more for it.
We have the Pinto plan.
Well, you know,
Gremlin.
it comes back to my feeling about
Yeah.
reality.
Right.
It's not a fair game, and yet,
Would anyone else like to ask a question or make a comment? I'm not, you can continue to talk to Mr. Referral. Okay.
You were talking about out-of-district magnets and that kind of stuff. So there's a tuition cost, because I don't think I knew that.
Mhm.
So if somebody goes to RMMS
Yes,
or something like that, there's a tuition cost.
that is about,
Do you-
projected to be about 3,000.
Okay, so
And
not awful,
when we
but-
don't transport, but 3,000.
We don't
for
transport,
us.
okay, so there's a little bit of savings.
The regional multicultural magnets.
That was the only one I could think of the name off the top of my head.
And if they have special ed, we get additional charges.
Of course we do.
Okay. Yeah.
That's how it works, right?
Yeah. We don't always see them
No,
when
yeah.
they choose to go.
I know.
And once they go.
They're
And we
gone.
don't, I mean, this sounds, I would look, I've talked to some, because you hear it's this kind of magnet and it sounds exciting, they want another opportunity, or they read, oh, but, you know, New London's scores are similar to ours, so it's not because their
Yeah.
test scores look that different, it's because it sounds like it's a different opportunity. The way it's marketed is also good, and it's right for their kid. So I
Yeah,
would never take that away.
No, and I'm not suggesting that we take it
Yeah.
away or we say that's not an
Right.
option. I just wondered,
And we
is
don't,
there something
it's, there's
that
no,
we can say, oh, well, didn't you know about Moriarty or didn't
Well,
you know
because
about Laquan? I mean, I think we do a
we
very
have,
good job of
we
marketing.
do, and
but-
we're pretty, you know,
I
at
know.
Moriarty, we're pretty well maxed at capacity, and we're
Mhm.
Quantic close, those two magnet schools. People ask, well, why don't you then have outside students come to Norwich and let them pay tuition? Then you get a little bit of funding from the state if they continue to fund magnet schools. So it's a, first of all, we all know our school, if you look at our class sizes the way they are, our schools are pretty jam-packed. So to say 30 more kids or 50 more students, someone came to me with an idea, I think I can show you how you can make $500,000. Oh, yeah, let's, you know. But it's, where do we put them without squeezing out our own students? So we'll get, let's say we charge $3,000 or $4,000 for each for those students. Okay. But then if the state stops funding the match, which is so much talk about it, it makes me a little nervous. It's like another grant. We're on this tightrope of grants, that funds so much of what we do, I'd be afraid to say, yeah, we'll bring in everybody, and you never know how many might come. So it's not a never thing for us, but it's not a right now thing. I don't think it's a
Well,
good
you have to take into
business
consideration,
decision.
it's,
Yeah.
yeah, you get tuition, but there's associated costs with
Correct.
bringing all that in.
Correct, correct.
So, and I swear I'll stop talking after this,
That's- no,
but
that's
I want
all
to
right.
end on, I mean, you know,
I do.
I am a really passionate supporter
Mhm.
of Norwich Public Schools, and normally I have my stuff organized so I don't sound like a babbling idiot, but I'm not that organized tonight. Joe, I do see a change. And I'm happy to go, I mean, I'm not happy because when I stand up in front of the city council, I feel like my heart is beating so fast, I feel like my head is gonna explode. But I'm happy to go stand in front of the city council and plead my case for the education. I have 2 daughters, they are both at Moriarty. One was there before it was a magnet. I tell Abby all the time, I thought it was the stupidest idea ever that we were gonna do that. Never been so happy to be wrong. They're flourishing, I do see a difference. My kid happened to do well on the SBAC, and I know there's a lot of kids who don't have technology at home. We have a responsibility to educate our kids, they're our future.
Yeah.
So, I came tonight so that I could be more informed, and I could get a better understanding. I appreciate always the transparency that you work under,
Thank you.
that's
Heather.
it.
Thank you, Heather. And I want to say that, you know, our staff, I would say second to none in anywhere. They work really hard under sometimes really difficult situations, wondering, you know, will I be here, will I not be here, should I pack up my room or not? That was a question today. And so when we give out non-renewals to a large number of people who have committed their time, and some are here, we may or may not be able to call some or all of them back. We've invested so much in those people, and in our kids. That's the part that sets us back, because they've learned our curriculum, they've had professional development through all the grants. We've really done tons of things to improve our student achievement and to fill our teachers with knowledge. So then we say, well, we might not need you, so many of them will say, I can't wait to see, and they'll go, and they'll apply somewhere else, and they'll leave us. And then when we start to look for other people, some may come back, and they were teaching first grade, but now we need a second grade. So now the first grade teacher who was really good at that curriculum has to learn second grade. It's not about the hard work that the teacher will do to do that, because they will. It's about, then you have that startup time yet again, and we have our kids changing. We're doing a presentation to the board this month, April, this month, we already had our meeting, about the transiency. We're going to show how many kids start in kindergarten and how many are there even in third grade. You can't imagine that there's so much transition of students that you're trying to have in front of you who come in and out and live lives that none of us would want for our kids, some of them. We have many children of trauma, and they come from other countries after trauma or in our own country, and it's such diversity I celebrate. I think it's wonderful for all of our students, but it's a challenge to be able to do it within a budget. It takes people, and we are doing the best we can within what we know. We know is a limited city budget. We know there's not a lot of revenue. What you see is the truth. There's no hidden cost. We don't have principals in the days back. Principals, I'd say, Donna's here. Donna, here's your budget book, put it together, tell me, and we'll fund it. I don't even give principals an opportunity to fill out a budget book, because what's the point? If there's a health and safety issue, you'll tell us, we'll address it, but there's no point in having schools fill out budgets when there's no wiggle room. It's not like you can put down a wish list. The only way we get a wish list is if we get a grant, and then the grant runs out. So we fill up as much as we can with the grant and look for another one. So, or it's like chasing your tail, I guess, but we're thankful for the grants we get. We're thankful for what the city does, but it's our obligation to educate our kids, and this is our city now. We are an urban center, and we have obligations to students and families, period.
go ladies before gentlemen.
I'd just like to say that the increases for health insurance and tuitions for 16, 17, they're not like new things for 16, 17. We are struggling with those costs right now. We are struggling greatly with those costs right now. In fact, we've been in a freeze since the beginning of the school year. You can ask any principal or any secretary, don't call Athena looking for something, because what I say to every single one of them, find it from a grant. If you can't get it from a grant, I can't get it for you. And most of the things that they're asking for are reasonable, and there's a way to get them from a grant. But we've been in a freeze all year long. I mean, there's been a couple of years since I've been here. July 1st rolls around and I key the budget into Phoenix, which is our financial system, and I say, but don't worry, because you can't order anything. And that's pretty sad. I mean, and that's exactly what we're looking at for 16, 17, and that's exactly where we've been for 15, 16. If you need pencils, you better be able to get it from Title I or something, because I can't get it for you.
And then
Everybody loves me because I do the grants.
He does look like the hero.
the other thing, people, I wanted to mention, one other thing is, we've heard a lot of talk about shared service. Why don't we combine our business department with the city or with it? And we've met, honestly, Athena and I have been down there every year to meet with, we called for a meeting this year. How do we do it? Just so you know, our department, this is central office administration, and for a district our size, it's unheard of to have 4 people in central office administration, but that, we make it work. We don't have a human resource, and this is not an excuse, I'm just telling you. We don't have a human resource department. We have one clerk who does all of our human resources. Insurance, workman's comp, certifications, retirees, you name it, whatever a department might do in the city, because they have a department. I'm not trying to pick on them, I'm just pointing it out. We do with one clerk. We have one payroll clerk. Now, we've had some turnover because you say to this clerk, we have 700 employees now. Adult education does their payroll, food service does theirs, but it comes to our office for finalization. So we have one clerk who's a secretary payroll clerk. We've been able to raise it a little bit, who does all of that processing. Maybe we have someone else who's a secretary, obviously, who double checks. Athena's assistant, who's an accountant kind of person, double checks. So, but that's it. That is it. We don't have departments. People said to me, "What about marketing?" Marketing. This is it. Or our webmaster. It's not a complaint. It's a contributing factor. We do it because that's who we are, and that's what we have to do because we believe in our district, and everybody in their schools does it too. Yes.
Are you implying that these other departments have staffs?
They have staffs.
Oh, okay.
They have directors, assistant directors,
Yes. So,
assistants to the
you
assistants.
know, and we're willing to share, but, you know, we can't really share. We can't really share who we have because we have one, if we could combine, we have different systems. We have to report to the state. We have certification requirements. There's other systems that other people would have to learn. So there could be a time for people to learn that education. We have a different payroll system, different kinds of databases, student databases. So it's not like I could say to, you know, someone in the city, you need to take this on tomorrow. It would be planned. So that's,
So within the city, collectively, you have departments that have multitude.
Can you hear back there?
No.
you gotta get up.
Can you stand
I'm
up?
sorry, I didn't mean to.
Point.
I pointed at you, I apologize.
I'm just trying to really understand what I'm hearing. And it sounds to me, again, it comes back to what I said before. It seems like within the city government, we have people who have Cadillac insurance versus
Pinto.
Pinto insurance. It sounds like we have departments that have staffs as opposed to just a few people. Where's the equity here? And because of the fact that they have such a task and their dollars are high, they're the ones that need to lower their costs. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense.
And again, it's not to
And
point out.
you mentioned about payroll.
Yeah.
Why doesn't the whole system have a payroll
I mean, they sign our
agency that
checks.
come in?
The city
But I'm
does.
saying, hire a payroll company.
We can hire a payroll company
And
and
do
we,
it for everybody.
oh, well,
I don't.
Everybody. I mean,
Well, that's
a
what-
check is a check.
Yeah.
well,
I mean,
it's
payroll
not
sys-
necessarily just a check, because on our side, we have TRB to worry about, so
Teacher
some people,
retirement board.
some people
they
you
don't
have
a
social
TRB.
security. Yeah, teacher retirement board, so some people would contribute to the city pension plan, some would do to TRB, which has entirely different rules.
You mean to
Some
tell
do
me-
social
You
security,
mean to
so.
tell me there isn't payroll agencies that are familiar with this kind of stuff?
There are payroll agencies that are familiar
Just
with it,
think about it.
however, to combine us with the city with a payroll agency would be very difficult for them to understand the intricate
Well,
details of both.
I think,
But
Maybe not.
separately,
I think we all have to open up our minds and not be focused in
Right.
tunnel vision. I think we need to look at it openly.
Right. I
And
don't
from a
dis-
practical standpoint, why couldn't we have one payroll agency handle the whole city of Norwich? What's so difficult about payroll?
but
I
from,
mean, all you buy is you buy the software. I
Okay,
don't know.
all right.
Okay, a lot of things were said, and I'm going to just, first of all, commend all of you. Because in a job that you're doing, it is thankless in a lot of regards. And I also am in a household of an educator. So I hear it every day. It's not in Norwich. Your issues are great magnitudes larger than Basra. But I hear the same things every day. The transient students, the special education, the costs that you just can't avoid. So the first thing I wanted to say is thank you.
Thank you.
The second thing I want to say is I'm glad there are city council members here because the problem, as this gentleman is saying, is bigger than what we have here. They work with what they have and they do an exemplary job. But at the city council level, that's where the problem exists in the city of Norwich. We're all subject to increasing costs. We're all subject to increasing health costs. I'm in private business, I see the same thing. But what the Board of Education does in this town, I raised 4 children here, and I'm very happy that I did so. They went to Moriarty as well. But the bottom line is, you folks do an amazing job. Thank you for your efforts. And I hope that the City Council hears what's going on here today in the Pinto versus another medical plan, because that is not equitable, nor is it right. Thank you for your time.
Thanks,
Sir,
Gary.
Sir, and the majority of the people of the Board of Education and the City Council are not here.
Well, it doesn't matter. The people that are here, and the people that it matters to are here, but the point has been made, and again, I thank you for your efforts.
Thank you, Gary. Anyone else like to make a comment or a question?
Again, I just wish that everybody would identify themselves. So my name is Joanne Philbrook. I am a citizen, but I am also a member of the City Council, and I have taken to heart a lot that has been said here tonight. As a senior citizen and a woman who's up there in years, I think back about what education was when I was a child, and what education was like when my children were children. My youngest is 50, my oldest is 51. Times have changed. And times have not changed for the better. In my opinion, in our efforts to be politically correct, leave no child behind, we have created a monster that no one can control. In the 60s, children didn't have autism. Children didn't have special needs. Mothers and fathers were family units. Mothers were home in the afternoon when the children walked home from school. Abby made reference to that she went home for lunch. I don't know where we're going, and it scares the living daylights out of me. All of this has nothing to do with education, in my opinion. Administrators, teachers, support staff are so consumed with trying to take care of all of this other stuff. That's why education, in my opinion, I'll use the word failing. You have a task that I don't know how you're going to get around it. I mean, it's ridiculous. I can remember when my children, I lived on Martha's Vineyard, and we moved from one town to the next in the middle of the school year. And I said, I would like my children to stay in the West Tisbury school. And they said, you may like it, but you moved to Oak Bluffs, so your children will now go to Oak Bluffs. And I think personally too that maybe we do a disservice to some of our young people when we give them everything that someone thinks they need, when in actuality, if maybe we all had to work a little harder and do with a little less, we'd be better people for it. So please, I understand, I see both sides of the coin, and I would urge everyone in this audience, yourself, come to the city council meetings. You can come to the Board of Education, you can come to forums like this, but unless you stand up and speak your mind, nothing will change. And I'm going to tell you, change is needed in the city of Norwich. And the only way it will happen is for people like you, taxpayers, citizens, parents, senior citizens, to get up, speak out. Because if the voice is long enough and loud enough, people will have to listen.
I appreciate that. Joanne?
This prevalence rate was probably one in 10,000 students that were identified with autism. The statistics based on this year, depending on who you talk to, it's 1 in 50 to 1 in 80 children that are being identified with autism. And the level of autism is more severe. As the numbers increase, we would think it wouldn't, but it is. And so when we look at what's happening in special education, the incidences of some of these disabilities are much more frequent, and no one knows why, but clearly they're there, and it's increasing, and the need for the children to have that specialized instruction increases, and we need to meet the children's needs and provide them with the best opportunities that they have in order to be successful citizens and be career and college ready when they get to be age 21.
And I did not mean to minimize or to, but I have a son with a disability, he has a traumatic brain injury, and I understand the obstacles, not only the physical, the emotional, but the administrative obstacles that you have to go through. So.
Thank you. Sir? And then Mr. Stefan has something else to say. I've been keeping
And I
him quiet.
promise I won't.
We both point at each other all the time.
You're
Like
just
this.
lucky you don't sit on her right-hand side.
Yeah, I'm like this. That's how I talk. Okay.
My name's Ryan Telford. I'm a taxpayer in Norwich. Happy to be a resident here. I didn't grow up here.
Okay.
My name's Ryan Telford. I'm a taxpayer in Norwich. Happy to be a resident here. I didn't grow up here, but my wife did, and I'm glad I'm here. Councilwoman Philbrick said that we should stand up and speak our mind, and I really don't want tonight to go out on a bad note. I think looking at any situation in our society, if we look at it as doom and gloom and things are getting worse, that's not going to get us anywhere. And quite honestly, I don't know that the 50s and 60s were that much better than today. I didn't live back then. I was fortunate enough to be born in the 70s. But if I recall, we had some problems with civil rights back then in the 50s and 60s. I think things like mental illness, and my guess would be autistic children were lumped in with mental illness, were considered a shame and were locked away in mental institutions in the 50s and 60s. I think we had a lot more domestic violence. Maybe the divorce rates weren't as high as they are now, but there was a lot more domestic violence and things that happened behind closed doors. I think teen smoking rates were probably higher in the 60s. I think, I think there were a lot of problems back in the 50s and 60s that we don't have now. So I think our society has progressed.
We were then.
I do like our education system, and
Thank you.
I think teachers get a bad rap. I think the real foundation starts at home with the parents, and if you don't have a good foundation at home, you can throw whatever information and tests you want at those kids, and sometimes it just doesn't help. So my hat's off to the teachers in the Norwich Public School System. I think they do a great job. I support the budget, you know, there needs to be cutbacks somewhere, but we have to start with a positive attitude, thinking what can we do together as a community, and we have to get teachers and parents together more. My understanding is that there's a very small PTO presence in the school systems. Some schools don't even have a PTO, or I believe Mahan, where we're at, we have like 2 members on the PTO that meet about every 6 months. So when you have that minimal amount of interaction with parents and teachers and administrative staffs, our schools aren't going to go very far. So I think we need to bring together parents, teachers, administrators, students, have a positive attitude, move forward, and we'll be just fine.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Stefan, then I'm going to wrap it up,
Okay.
unless someone else wants to say something. We
First
can
of
talk.
all, I'm going to say, I apologize for pointing.
No, that's fine.
But I didn't get animated.
Yes,
And
Anthony.
I've been in Norwich as an educator for 39 years.
And he's retiring.
And I'm retiring in June. My days are numbered. Sounds like they're gonna put me out to pasture. But I have a lot of, I guess you would call it historical history about Norwich Public Schools. From the time I started teaching in Norwich, naturally the diversity was minimal. And I taught at Buckingham School, Stanton School, Mahan School. A student taught at Moriarty School the second year it was open. And I've seen the change in our populations. I've seen the changes in what students are either coming to school with or without. And being a teacher today is very labor intensive and very challenging. And I do have to say at times, a thankless job. Because people don't look at, and we've talked about this many a times, we don't always promote all the good things that we're doing because we're so focused on meeting the needs of students. And I'm going to say this because I'm going out in 3 months. But we've said, if you look up here, having 4 central office people is pretty much unheard of in a school district that has 4,000 students. We've heard in the
That's
past.
one district, that's not even high school.
Right. We've heard in the past, well, it's because Mrs. Dolliver or whoever the superintendent is doesn't have a high school. It doesn't matter. We're talking about the number of students. It doesn't change. You still have the same mandates, unfunded mandates, and everything else. So, and we do live on a lot of grants. Our choice has always been to use the grants to provide for students. It would have been easy to write into a grant, say, have somebody else at central office to help them. We've never done that. We talked about having to give layoff slips, and I've lived through that. My first 6 years in Norwich, I got a pink slip. And if I didn't love teaching so much, I would have quit. Because sometimes you were hired back the day before school started. Sometimes you were just told in the hallway, which happened to me, oh, here's your pink slip, you don't have a job next year. But I loved what I did. I still love what I do. But I also realize it's time for a bit of change. I've worked with boards that never got along with the city council, and I've worked with boards and city councils who have put their differences aside and learned to work together. One of the things that, and I don't always say a lot of nice things about Abby, so I am going to say this here. One of the things that Abby and I and Mary and Athena talked about a number of years ago was not giving layoff slips. And one of the reasons is, and Abby touched on it before, when you lay off a teacher and they're teaching first grade, and then at the last minute or whenever you put them in 5th grade, it's a whole new curriculum. It's a whole different age level. And the research that's out there says it takes a good 3 to 5 years for them to know the curriculum and the age level that you're teaching. So one of the things I think I talked about with the board a couple years ago was maybe that's one of the reasons why people don't look at us as being a a growing district. And all I've ever heard is, and you look in the paper, and no offense to our folks here, Norwich is a failing district based upon one test. I'm not a good test taker. I probably would not be doing what I'm doing if I had to take all these tests that students do today. But that being said, the decision was made not to lay off teachers for 2 years. And we worked with the teachers, and they had the same grade level 2 years in a row. And what a difference it made. They're comfortable, they understand the age group that they're working with. We gave them a lot of support. And that's probably one of the reasons why we struggle. But we've had a school board that has been super supportive of us for as many years as I've been doing this job. And for the most part, I think the politics on the school board is left to the side because the decisions are made in best interests of kids. So it's kind of frustrating to know that we may have to do this again. And you look at the students that we have coming into our district. One of the things that Mary and I are doing this year, we're splitting up the duties as teacher evaluators at our early learning center. And we have 2 early learning center teachers here. And it's been an eye-opener for me going into that building because it's a mix of typical students and students who need special help, but they're mixed together. And it's phenomenal what those teachers would do with the number of students that they have. But you're starting in preschool with high-need students in some cases. And I applaud all teachers, but I applaud the early childhood teachers who are here for the phenomenal job that they do with these kids and the support that they get. And a lot of those teachers over there are through grant money. And that's what we have to face every day. And I think part of what happens in this district, sometimes you can be self-defeating and saying, oh, the morale in this district is, but you know what? Sometimes when you get beat down enough, that's how you start feeling. And it's just interesting that, sometimes when people say, what do you do for a living? I'm almost embarrassed sometimes to say I'm an educator. And I've been an educator for 39 years. I think we have a phenomenal school district. I had chances to leave and I never left because it is a challenging school district. And these kids who are moving in and out and everything else still need somebody who cares about them. And so I understand and that the job that the folks downtown have to do, people need to understand the job that we have to do up here. And I know, and I don't know you by name, but I know you always go to the city council meetings, and I appreciate you being here tonight.
Faithfully.
Because I think it's important that people really know what we do.
That's why that's kind of why we did this.
Right.
Are you good?
You cut me off?
Yes. Mr. Daniels would like to.
Okay. I'm sorry, Mr. Daniels. I just thought you were standing up there for...
Stretching.
This is just
This is
Joanne
the
and
way
I
we
here
live.
tonight. There's no way we could be accused of having a quorum, so.
Yeah, that's
Though
right.
we are probably a few of the most opinionated people that sit in our room. The one number that you hit on, but if you could give us another number, specifically, how many students do we have in our midst that are English language learners, approximately?
Sheila, as of this minute, she
As of
probably knows.
This minute.
She's
As
like
of this minute, we have 531 English language learners.
Okay.
531.
All right. And again, and the reason that I want to, so what we're looking at is 1/6 of our students are English language learners. 1/3 of our students have IEP.
IEP.
IEP, thank you.
17%.
17%.
17%.
17%.
Mhm.
17, you said 1,000.
1,000 students, but we have 5,000 students total.
Counts
That's
the
counts the high
NFA.
school.
Well, without NFA, we can't count NFA. We can't.
But we
For
pay
special
for that.
education, though, the number's included. So
Okay,
the
okay,
district
so,
is at
okay,
17%.
that's including NFA, my mistake, okay, I understand.
Or any
Thank you.
anyway.
Okay, 17%.
Mhm.
3/4 of our students are free and reduced lunch. Anybody doubt that this is a city that we're living in?
An urban center.
This is an urban center. We've got every single challenge that goes, that is what these numbers are showing. And for us to continue to want to, two things, and I'm gonna shut up. That for us to want to continue to treat Norwich as a little hamlet and keep little spaces and not treat it like the city it is, we'll never catch up. We can't. We've got to, all these little pretty buildings and things, that. We got to get that mindset's got to be gone. We've got to bring in revenue that supports the kind of place we are. That's just it. That's the new Norwich, and we've got to embrace that if we want to go on. I know we're part of that equation. We can look at whatever you want to look at. The numbers are on paper. As a K through 8, we don't move our students around from, room to room. It's nothing like that. They're in the same spot pretty much the entire day. So that number that you see each month, 19 to 29, with all these other challenges that I went over in the beginning, anything that makes that number goes up, we're shooting ourselves in the foot. Again, as I had this conversation last night. Help me out. I can't find it. We've been going over these numbers now for years. We're scraping, we're pulling. If anybody knows of anything else that we can combine that does not take my teachers out of the classroom, and that is my only wish. Please do not take my teachers out of the classroom. I can't cut them anymore. I mean, they're already doing enough jobs. I can't, so show me. I will do, anything I can keep my clothes on for to help y'all get there. I can't take my teachers out of the classroom. I can't do that. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Daniels. And then I'm gonna, go ahead. Come on up, please. Thank you.
I didn't really plan on saying anything. My name is John Blackburn. I am glad I came here. Now that is a lot of money. And what it is the state is not fulfilling their part. Period. That's the problem. And now they're claiming they're in the red. I don't know how they can be in the red. I look at my wage and earnings statement. I see between the federal and the state income tax. Let me tell you, I can't understand it. And that's the problem. It's the funding. And putting the elderly, I'm elderly myself. I'm a few years younger than her, but I'm getting there. I'm not retired yet. I could have retired maybe 2 years ago. I'm still working because I can't afford to retire. But that being the case, everybody needs to pull together. They're picking on the Board of Education all the time because that's the biggest part of the budget, okay? So that's an easy target. But you have other city departments, which is like the Norwich Public Utilities, which is their own, well, I don't want to say it, their own entity, empire, whatever it is over there. And here, we just get a tax, we get on a bill, we just get the rates raised, and here it is in the paper, we're going to get more. When does that stop? That's the problem. Everybody is trying to compete for the same dollars, and it boils down to funding, and that's all it is. It shouldn't be us against them, or us against you. And believe me, I had 2 teachers in my family. I had a brother-in-law, and I have a sister. And believe me, I've had words with my sister over the years. She's a little younger than me, and they both retired from Salem School. And it is really not fair for the media to compare Norwich with, say, Griswold, East Lyme, because they have their own high schools. You have a different situation. You have NFA. Oh, I went to NFA. Okay. I didn't go to college, but I have that diploma, believe me. It's helped me. And of course, if I went to college, I could have made more money than I am now, but, oh well, that's the case in point. I wasn't college material. Like him, I'm not a test taker. Never. And congratulations on your 39 years.
Thank you.
So just one more fast fact I'll give you. I just have January's numbers in front of me. 53 new students came in, 50 left. That was 1 month. This is what the board sees every month. And that's how we work. And I have it broken down if anyone, I'm happy to share with anyone, anytime, where they go, where they come from. We have that all charted now. We monitor that, just because it's interesting. But I have to say, we have a great team, great board, who work together for the benefit of our community and our kids. And I've been here a long time too, not quite 39, but almost. And our staff is second to none. They come back every day with the best intentions in mind, working very hard. And I wouldn't trade anybody for anything, but we're still at it. We're going to stay positive, and we keep fighting for the kids and our community. So any of us are available anytime. If you want more information, you can come in and see any of us, or we can send you anything that you're interested in. We have statistics on just about anything. Data.
Okay, I forgot one thing.
Go ahead, Mr. Blackman.
Oh, yeah, Mr. Okay.
Okay.
I just want to dovetail a little bit on Joanne.
Mhm.
I've gone to city council meetings, and it is frustrating. She's been in the audience, she's very outspoken, which she is. I am too. But you know what? These people need to go down and voice their opinions. Don't sit home on a couch because nothing's gonna get done and gripe. I have a brother that told me, oh, you're going down there, you can say whatever. I says, yeah, I only have 3 minutes. I got time to say just what I wanna say. You got something to say, you go down there.
I agree with
They
you.
need to hear it.
I agree with you, because I go too, and I
know it's frustrating.
I don't generally speak, but. So I, again, thank everybody in the audience, our staff, our families, our community members, everybody who shows interest. We're all in it together because it's our community, so it's not, it sounds sometimes like it's us and them. It's really our community, and we have to fight for it, and we have to work for it together, so thanks again.